Hello and welcome to our video tutorial for today. In our discussion today, I'm going to introduce you proper to circle theorem. Today we are going to look at the introduction to circle theorem, and I want you to pay concrete attention to this video because this video will form a foundation of all the theorems we'll start taking on circle geometry. Now, if you have been finding circle geometry very difficult, I promise you at the end of this introductory section, you are going to understand the basics of circle geometry, and you are going to learn a lot after that will help you as you solve the various theorems in circle geometry. If you are new to this channel, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and also subscribe to this channel. Also, make sure you click the bell icon so that you can get notified when our subsequent videos content will be uploaded. And also, if you're a returning subscriber to this channel, I want to say thanks so much for returning and for watching our video contents all this while. We truly appreciate you. You're the reasons why this channel keep growing. Thanks so much. We appreciate. Now let's go straight to our discussion for today. In this video, we're going to introduce you to circle geometry. Now, what is circle geometry? The circle theorem is a circle part of geometry that discusses everything that has to do with a circle. Now, if you want to be very good at solving questions in circle theorem, all you need to do is to know what a chord is, know what an arc is, know when a chord sustains an angle at the center, know when the chord sustains an angle at the circumference. All these are very important because they will help you solve questions on circle theorem very easy. Now, let's start off. What do we mean by a chord of a circle? A chord of a circle, as we have discussed in many of our previous videos, is a line that joins 2 points on the circumference of a circle. Now, this line joins 2 points must not pass through the center of the circle. At times, it passes through the center of the circle, and when it does passes through the center of the circle, we call it the diameter. And that is why we say the diameter is the longest chord of any circle. So when a line joins 2 points on the circumference on any circle, at any point of the circle, that line is called a chord. Now, the chord of a circle as well as the arc of a circle. Now, the arc of a circle is what? Is any point on the what? On the circumference. Now, the difference between the arc, this is the arc, and this of a circle, and this is what? The chord of any circle. So if this is a complete circle, this goes as the what? As the arc, while this is a what? This is the chord of a circle. Now take note of that. Now this chord or this arc can sustain at the center of any circle, whatever it is. We'll come to know more about that at the end of this video. Now, the chords of a circle as well as the arc of any circle can form an angle either at the center of the circle, take note of this, or at the circumference. And this they do by either joining the 2 ends of that chord or of the arc to the center of that circle or any point, or to the circumference. Now, what do we mean by that? We call these angles that the chord or the arc sustains as the angle sustained by the chord or sustained by the arc, either at the center or at the circumference. Now we are going to circumference of the circle. Now we are going to look at analyze 3 good points or 4 points these 4 points is going to tell us the position of such angles in which the chord or the circle sustains either at the center or at the circumference. Remember, this is the core of circle geometry. Now let's look at that. The first one we are going to look at, we are going to analyze the chord. We're going to look at a chord AB, and we're going to see how this chord sustains an angle and the type of angle it sustains at the center of a circle. Now let's consider this chord. We have a chord AB, and this is the center of the circle. Now get to know about this. This chord can sustain an angle at the center of the circle when we extend the line to the center of this circle. Now it's going to sustain an angle at the center of the circle to form two angles, and the two angles can either be this angle O or it can be this angle X. So the chord AB sustains at the center O, and the angles it sustains at the center will give us angle AOB or angle X. An angle AOB is a reflex angle. Remember, we said a reflex angles are angles that are greater than 180 but they are less than what, 360 degrees. So this angle will give us a reflex angle and angle AOB, which is equal to X. So you see, whenever a chord AB sustains an angle at the center, of a circle, it forms two angles. So get to know about this. It's very, very important. That's the first point I want you to note. Now another point I want you to note is that this chord AB can sustain an angle at the circumference of the circle, and when it sustains an angle at a point in the circumference of the circle, it also produces two angles. Two angles that it will produce are these various angles. Now it's going to sustain an arc at the center of the circle, which will produce this angle and will take this place to B, or it can also sustain at a point at the circumference of the circle at this point, which will take this angle as angle Q. So if it does that, it's going to produce two angles, and remember, this is the center. So it's going to produce at the circumference, it's going to produce two angles. And what are the angles? The angles is angle APB and angles AQB. So when they say an arc or a chord AB sustains at the circumference of a circle, this is exactly what they mean. All you need to do is to take the chord of the circle and subtend it to a point on the circumference of the circle. So it either gives you this point or it gives you this point. So if you are solving any question and they told you that a chord AB sustains an angle at the circumference of the circle, this is exactly what they are trying to tell you. So don't get confused when you hear that. Now this is all about a chord. Now what about an arc? Now an arc AB can also sustain an angle at the center of a circumference, and when it does that, it's going to also produce two angles, just as this one does. If it does that at the center, let's assume we'll have a circle, and this is the center of the circle. This is an arc. This is an arc. And when we extend this arc to the center, it forms an angle here. This is the arc, and when we subtend it at the center of the circle, it forms an angle O, and it also forms a reflex angle. So this angle, we can call this angle Y, and this is the chord chord AB. An arc AB can sustain an angle to form two angles, and the first can be a reflex angle, and the reflex angle will be just as the other one, an angle AOB. So that is that. Now let's consider the fourth and final scenario. In the fourth and final scenario, we are going to consider when a chord sustains an angle at the center of a circle. Now let's consider a chord. This is the center of the circle, and at the center of the circle we have a chord AB. Now when the chord becomes the diameter by passing through the center O of a circle, the diameter will subtend two angles. One of the angles will be a straight line angle, which is angle AOB, and the other angle will be the angle it will form at a point on the circumference. Now let's explain that. Now when this chord AB sustains an angle at the circumference of a circle, let's assume this is M, this is center O, is going to form two angles. The first angle is angle AOB, which is equal to 180 degrees, and that is angle on a straight line. Now the next angle is going to form angle AMB, which is the angle at the circumference. It formed at the circumference of the circle. Now the angle sustained by this diameter at the circumference of the circle is also called the angle in the semicircle. So whenever you hear the angle in a semicircle, you should know that the angle that they are talking about is this angle, a chord which passes through the center of a circle, sustains at a point on the circumference of that circle. This is the fourth scenario I want you to paint as we discuss the introductory aspect of circle theorem. First of all, we've seen how a chord sustains an angle at the center of a circle. It produces two angles, one the reflex angle and the other one the angle X. We've also seen how a chord sustains an angle at the circumference of an angle of a circle. If it does that, it will produce two angles. One which will either be at the top of the arc, which is in the major segment, or at the minor segment. Those are the two angles it will form. We've also seen how the arc of a circle can also sustain an angle at the center of a circle, which will now form what we call two angles, a reflex angle and also the other angle at the center of the circle. And finally, we've seen how a chord becomes a diameter and passes through the center of a circle, it sustains an angle at the circumference. That angle it sustains at the circumference will produce two angles. One is angle on the straight line, and the other one is the angle it will sustain at the circumference. Now take note of these 4 points we've mentioned. It will truly do you good when you start solving questions on circle theorem. This is all we have for you today. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and share this video with your friends and colleagues. And also remember to subscribe to this channel so that you can get a subsequent update of our videos once they are uploaded. Thanks so much for watching, and look forward to seeing more of our videos on circle theorems.